you into the studio. Vasu Vada party here for this Wednesday edition of the Make the Money and Run podcast, the special edition on the heels of the World Series. Game 1 last night. What a game it was for the Atlanta Braves, a team that nobody gave a chance to of the 4 teams that started in the playoffs. Here they are with a 1-0 series lead. They dominated last night with Jorge Soler and Freddie Freeman. Charlie Morton on a broken leg. We'll get to that in a second. They jumped on Framber Valdez right off the bat with that leadoff home run by Soler. Valdez lasted 2 innings, 5 runs. Michael Brantley had 3 hits for the Astros as well, but not enough as the Braves take a 1-0 series lead in the World Series. Game 2 tonight. We'll get to all the details in a second. As we said, we're here every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter Live. Thanks to everybody on all those live broadcasts. If you missed any of it, you can download, subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeart, SoundCloud, any of the podcasting outlets that have that new logo up there, the Make the Money and Run logo. I think on Apple, we still have the old logo. We're changing it over right now. It takes a little bit for Apple to convert it over for those that know about podcasts. Check out our social media posts every day by 6 o'clock Eastern during the week, Monday through Friday. We'll have the latest news and updates as well as our selections for each day. So today being Wednesday, we'll have a selection Wednesday at 6 Eastern. Charlie O and Nick Robinson, intern Nick Robinson, will be part of that as well, too. As much as we like games during the week, we'll have that. And then on the weekends, 11 a.m. Eastern, 3 o'clock Eastern, and 6:30 Eastern for college football Saturdays, noon Eastern, and 3:30 Eastern on Sundays for NFL. Of course, we have the NBA and NHL as well on the weekends too. So we have that going as well. We're a full service podcast here when it comes to Make the Money and Run with the wagering side of it. So we really appreciate all the support that we get. Thank you to everybody again. Again, you can email us at mtmarpodcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Charlie and I have a page on Facebook and Instagram. We also have a group page for Make the Money and Run, as well as a Facebook individual page for Make the Money and Run as well. So thanks to everybody with that. We said the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, our sponsor. You can check them out. There you have the address right there, BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262. They cater to your office parties. They will set up your group events. They have weekday specials. Don't forget to check them out. 20 TVs in Cupertino. Next time you're in the Silicon Valley area on a work week or on a work assignment or whatever the case may be, you live here, go check them out. 20 TVs. You can get all the sports you want. Saturdays and Sundays for college football and the NFL. Like I said, the 20 TVs are there. The best British pub and restaurant in Silicon Valley, celebrating 40 years since 1981. This is their 40th year. All right, we said the World Series. Let's get into more specifics here. The Braves did defeat the Astros 6-2. They got out to a 5-0 lead after the second inning. Jorge Soler, the first ever leadoff home run in a Game 1 of any World Series in MLB history. Let me repeat that. The first ever leadoff batter in World Series history to hit a leadoff home run, and that was Jorge Soler. And the ironic thing about Jorge Soler is he wasn't even on the roster against the Dodgers. Actually, they moved him into Game 6 after they had an injury. They were able to bring him back because he had been put on the COVID list to start, so he was going to be ineligible for the entire NLCS until they had to make a roster move with an injury. So Jorge Soler is back in the lineup. The DH in Houston played well to him, and he led off the game with a home run, gave them a 1-0 lead. Adam Duvall added a 2-run home run later. Before you know it, it was 5-0. Valdez was out of the game, and the Astros go on to lose 6-2. Game 2 tonight on Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports. It'll be Jose Urquidy against Max Fried. We'll give you the line. We'll give you the details about that. But not only did Soler come back on the roster, unfortunately, they're going to have to replace one of their starting pitchers, as Charlie Morton gave it all he had. There's no doubt in my mind that one of the toughest guys in baseball, Charlie Morton, he wanted to be in this series because he pitched for the 2017 world champion Houston Astros. He also pitched for the American League champion Tampa Bay Rays in 2020. But he was on the mound yesterday. He lasted 2 1/3 innings, I believe. 2 1/3 innings was what he lasted. He only gave up 1 hit, but he had pitched on a broken leg. Apparently, he broke his tibia, pitched to 3 more batters to close out the inning in the second, came back in the third, struck out Jose Altuve, but could not stand on the leg. I don't even know how he did it, but you want to talk about a tough guy, hockey mentality. Charlie Morton gave it his all. And for that, he deserves a big round of applause from the Make the Money and Run crew. I'm not a big Atlanta fan, and they were not heavily favored in this series to win. But Charlie Morton showing how tough he is. Broken leg, pitched to four batters, sat for a half an inning, came back out, pitched to his fourth batter was Jose Altuve, got him a called third strike with his curveball. The former Astro also gave up one hit, no runs. The Braves bullpen came up with big 6 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs in the game. Besides Soler's 2 hits, Ozzie Albies continues his hot hitting. Hetty Rosario, who was the NLCS MVP, with 14 hits. They both had 2 hits. And we mentioned the Adam Duvall 2-run home run. It was 5-0 before we knew it. Framber Valdez, the starter, he pitched great against the Red Sox, going 8 innings last week in Game 4. He was on normal rest, so this wasn't a situation of him being tired out. 2+ innings, giving up 5 runs. Michael Brantley continues to hit. He's the hit machine right now in this 2021 playoffs and World Series. He had 3 more hits for Houston last night, who lost for the first time in 4 games since they lost their last game, Game 3 of the ALCS. They actually got blown out in that game as well, too. All right. The game for tonight, as we said, Jorge Soler led off the game. First ever time that happened. The Braves lead the series 1-0 Wednesday night on Fox Sports. Max Fried and Jose Urquidy. The line on the game, as we find the line on the game here, it's a slight favorite for Houston. You don't think they're going to lose 2 in a row, do you? Max Fried pitched well all playoffs. He had a rough start against the Dodgers last week in Game 5. Dodgers came back, made that series interesting before the Braves ended up closing it out in Game 6. Houston 116, slight favorite with Urquidy, the hard-throwing right-hander, the left-hander Max Fried going tonight. The total is 9. Last night's total was 8.5. It did not go over. The underdog came through. The underdog ended up being about a 125 underdog. So if you had the Braves yesterday at plus 125, you made a little bit of cash. They'll play Game 2 tonight. They have a day off for travel Thursday, and then 3 in Atlanta starting Friday. All games at 8 o'clock Eastern. Sunday night, I believe, is going to start 7:30 Eastern. After the football on Sunday, Fox has a doubleheader in the NFL on Sunday, so they're going to go right into Major League Baseball with the 3 games in Atlanta, assuming we have a Game 5 in Atlanta. I cannot see the Atlanta Braves sweeping the Houston Astros. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes for the Braves. If they can come out of Houston with a 2-0 lead, that's going to be very interesting for the Astros, because the Astros bats have not been shut down this whole year. They haven't been shut down in the playoffs. They got a little stuck in neutral against the Red Sox in Games 2 and 3 of the series, 1 in Houston and Game 3 in Boston. But they came back in Game 4, Game 5, and then put up a bunch of runs in Game 6 to take the ALCS. And here they are with the home field advantage. But Atlanta comes in and takes it over. All right, as I said, we're celebrated Britannia Arms 40-year anniversary. Check them out at 408-252-7262. Get on their menu. Get online, BritanniaArmsDienza.com, celebrating 40 years of the longest-serving British pub and restaurant in Silicon Valley. Don't forget, every day at 6 o'clock, we'll give you an update on the NBA later at 6 Eastern about LeBron James and whether he's going to play tonight. He didn't play yesterday. So we'll have all those little tidbits at 6 Eastern. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram for the Make the Money and Run podcast minute. Of course, we're here 3 times a week. This is an added bonus show because of the World Series. As we said, we're going to try and do as much baseball coverage on the World Series, and then we'll get back to normal once the World Series is over. But Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, don't forget on Friday, we specifically design it for the football weekend. So we have a baseball show at 12:30 that goes for about a half hour. And then we have a Friday football show Charlie O and I do on Fridays. That goes at 1 o'clock immediately following the Friday baseball show on the Make the Money and Run podcast. Don't forget to check it out anywhere you get your podcasts. If you missed the live broadcast, we greatly appreciate you going on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You can get the podcast version of it as well, but you can also go on the podcast sites for the audio version as well. We got some great guests that we've had in the past, and we've got some great insight into the sports wagering. You can track our records. You can check us out any way that you want to. So the Braves with a 1-0 series lead. The line tonight, 116 for Jose Urquidy, the right-hander, hard-throwing right-hander for Dusty Baker. Max Fried goes for the Atlanta Braves. How do you feel about the series? Do you want to see Dusty Baker finally get that ring? He had a chance in 2002 with the San Francisco Giants. The Angels came back and got him. They were up 3-2 in that series. and the Angels came back with that damn rally monkey. As you're not an Angels fan, then it's a damn rally monkey. In Game 6, Scott Spezio, a name from the past, hits the home run off Rob Nen to give them the lead. And then in Game 7, it was a blowout. Livan Hernandez got hit hard by the Angels in that Game 7. That was Dusty Baker's last World Series appearance. But how about Dusty Baker? Let's give him some love here. This Astros, we're going through a lot of turmoil with the scandalous behavior and all that, but Dusty Baker's the right guy to come in and handle it. He can handle all the criticism. He can handle all the questions. And he told his team that he was going to take all the pressure off them by answering every question and just go out and play. They've got guys on here. The thing that bothers most people about the Houston Astros is they didn't need to cheat. They've got good enough players that they can win without cheating. Altuve, Bregman, Correa, Yordan Alvarez was not there in 2017, so he's not part of it. But George Springer, he was there in 2017. Yuli Gurriel was there in 2017. I think the whole infield was there ever since 2017, maybe 2016 as well, too. But Dusty Baker, the right man to do it. I watched him as a kid, as a Dodger. Of course, he came up in the Atlanta Braves under the tutelage of Hank Aaron, making his major league debut at 19 years old. The only manager, I should say, to lead 5 different teams to playoff appearances. I believe he had an NLCS appearance with Chicago, a division series with Cincinnati, a division series with Washington, and of course the World Series with the Giants in 2002 and the World Series now in 2021 against the Atlanta Braves. But he finds himself down 1-0. It'll be interesting to see, as we said, Urquidy will go tonight against Max Fried. Into the studio for part 2 of the Make the Money and Run podcast. If you miss any of it, you can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Just look for that logo up in the top right corner there of the screen and subscribe and let everybody know that you're on the Make the Money and Run podcast, and we'll go there. All right, Vasi Vada party here. We talked World Series. The Braves are up 1-0. Game 2 in Houston tonight. Let's give you that line one more time. Houston, since that's what we do here, we're a wagering show. We err on the caution of the wagering angle, so we make sure we give you the point spreads and the lines and the money lines and everything that goes with it. Jose Urquidy, the right-hander for the Houston Astros, and that outstanding bullpen. Didn't pitch very well yesterday, but they've got it going on, especially in that Boston series. They shut the Red Sox and their bats down for 4 straight. Jose Urquidy, Max Fried going tonight in game 2. They'll travel on Thursday, and they'll have 3 in Atlanta starting Friday, assuming that we do get to a game 5. 116-9 the total on the Houston Astros tonight against the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta with a 1-0 series lead. All right, let's go to the NBA here real quick. We'll talk about the NBA. The Warriors improved to 4-0. They get an 8-point win at Oklahoma City. They were down 11 at the half. They came back and scored big in the third quarter and fourth quarter. They end up winning by 8, but depending on when you had it, actually intern Nick had it at -8. So he got a push, but that line ended up to 9.5 for the Warriors. So they did not cover at Oklahoma City. I think it's the first game that they have not covered this year in their 4 games. They are 4-0. They're on a roll right now. They've got a day off today. We'll get the schedule out at 6 o'clock Eastern for their next game. I believe they're coming back to California. No, they're going somewhere else tomorrow. I believe Orlando or maybe Charlotte, and then they're coming back home after that. I don't know the schedule offhand, but we'll know on the day of what the lines are at that point, who they're going to play, who's healthy and who's not. So the Warriors improved to 4-0. The Bulls are also 4-0. They won 2 nights ago at Toronto. The Lakers, without LeBron James, they're the Thunder's next opponent tonight. They're going back-to-back. They beat the Spurs 125-121 in overtime without LeBron James. Anthony Davis, I believe he's coming into his own. He's got a team around him now. The New Orleans Pelicans, they did trade him a few years ago, but 35 points, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks last night. He was all everything for the Lakers. They got off to a bad start, but they got that win at San Antonio. They were a 2.5-point favorite, even without LeBron James. They end up covering as they end up going to overtime in that game, 125-121 for the Lakers. How about the New York Knicks? They're playing well right now. They beat the Ben Simmons-less Sixers, 112-99. 19 points for Kemba Walker. The Sixers only shot 44% from the field, less than 30% from threes. In today's NBA, you cannot do that. You have to shoot at least 1/3 of your shots from 3 and make them, I should say, make 1/3 of your shots from 3. So the Sixers struggling a little bit. They're trying to get their games in order. Joel Embiid had a fantastic game yesterday, but it wasn't enough. Sixers were up after 1, but the Knicks took them over in the second, third, and fourth. I really liked the Sixers yesterday. So did Charlie O. We had them at +2.5. Thought it was going to be a good game, especially the way the Knicks played and blew that lead against Orlando on Sunday. We thought this might be a chance for the Sixers to get healthy a little bit, go after the Knicks. But Julius Randle playing well. Kemba Walker back in his home state of New York, he played well last night. They shot nearly 48% from the field, but I think they were 42% from beyond the arc. So they did play well. They played good defense. They held Philadelphia to 99 points. That's hard to do in the NBA these days, but that's what they did. Utah beats Denver 122-110. Denver was in this game all the way through the middle of the third quarter. In fact, they had a lead at one point. Utah was favored by 7.5. Denver loses 122-110. Nikola Jokic, the Joker. You know who he is. You know who I'm talking about. Jokic. I go with Jokic. I believe that's the way he wants to pronounce it. But either way, he's a stud. He's the defending MVP from last year. The problem was he didn't play in the second half, but he had 24 points in the first half. Nikola Jokic, had 24 points in the first half, but he did not play in the second half, and that hurt Denver from shooting-wise. It was a close game at the half. I believe it was a 3-point game at the half. They end up winning, outscoring Denver by 9 in the second half, but a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were able to defend Denver. Michael Porter had an off-shooting night. Campazzo played okay. Denver's a pretty good team. Michael Malone has them going right now, but Utah is really good, and they get the 122-110 victory. Jokic, again, 24 points, but all in the first half. He did not play in the second half. So that's the light schedule in the NBA. Let's get to the lines in the NBA for today. Charlotte is at Orlando. Charlotte 5.5, 220 on the road. They lost to Boston at home after starting out 3-0 in overtime, 140-129. The Charlotte Hornets 5.5 at Orlando. Orlando's not very good. I don't know if I'd lay 5.5 because Charlotte doesn't play defense and they haven't played any defense yet. So we'll see how that goes. The Brooklyn Nets, no Kyrie Irving still. 3.5-point favorites over Miami. Surprising Miami. I didn't think they would be very good this year, but they've come out and played well. And Brooklyn only a 3.5-point favorite at home. You would think that if Irving was there, it would be a 6 or 7 or maybe even higher. Miami's firepower, we'll have to see where that takes them because right now it's been pretty good. 217.5 the total. This would have been in the 220s, high 230s maybe, because the last few years that Brooklyn and Miami played each other, they've all been 120 to 120 games. So we'll see how this goes. But Brooklyn, a 3.5-point favorite over Miami, 217.5 the total. The Toronto Raptors, who won at Boston on Friday, lost to Chicago on Monday night at home as a 1.5-point underdog. Chicago won by 4. They're a pick 'em at home against the Indiana Pacers, who can score and they can run up and down the court. They got beat by the Bucks on Monday night. They lost by 10. They were a 2.5-point underdog at home, but Milwaukee beat them. They got their act in the second half going to the Bucks, and they were able to take out Indiana, I believe, a 10-point victory in that game. Toronto lost to Chicago, as we said. Pick 'em and 219.5. 219.5. Pick and 215 is the total. These are all piled up together, so I apologize. Toronto, a pick and 215 versus Indiana. The Atlanta Hawks behind Trae Young, and they're Clint Capella in the middle, Kevin Huerter on the outside shooting. They've got a pretty good defense, too, this year. 5.5 is their line. They're at New Orleans. 219.5, Nolans, for those of you down south. 219.5, Atlanta, 5.5 on the road. Do you like the Hawks as a road favorite? Do you like the Pelicans at home? The Pelicans at home, pretty tough to play at home. Atlanta really hasn't established themselves on the road. I know we've only had 4 games into the season, but boy, Trae Young can shoot. Their defense is really good. Clint Capella can rebound. Those of you that remember him with Houston, didn't really fit into the package with James Harden and the rest over there, and also Russell Westbrook at that point too. They did get to the conference semifinals that year with James Harden, but the next year they did not get past the division. Atlanta, 5.5, 219.5 at New Orleans. The aforementioned Boston Celtics, they're at home against the Washington Wizards. Washington had a tough game against Brooklyn. They lost by 13, but they were down by as many as 22. Washington got off to a 2-0 start. They were able to beat the Toronto Raptors and the Indiana Pacers, which may say something about Indiana and Toronto, because they got beat by a better team in Brooklyn, and they got thumped by Brooklyn. So Boston's a pretty good team. Jason Tatum's been on fire the last 2 or 3 games. He's a 4-point favorite. They're a 4-point favorite against Washington. The total is 224. Washington's defense through the first 3 games has been really good. Even though they got beat by the Nets, they held the Nets to under 110 points, because you know the Nets can score at will against anybody. So we'll see if Washington can play defense tonight, maybe come out with a road victory against Boston. I don't think that's going to happen, but check us out at 6 o'clock Eastern when we get all the information piled up, and we'll let you know all the news about that. The Milwaukee Bucks are 6.5 and 230, and they are playing. You know what? I didn't put that down here. These graphics are not letting me get in there. So let me see who the Milwaukee Bucks are playing. But they won at Indiana on Monday night. They won by 10 against the Pacers on the road. They were down in that game as well, too. So we'll see. The Bucks are playing the Timberwolves. They're playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have been pretty good this year. They whipped up on the Rockets a couple of games ago. They have not lost yet. I believe they haven't lost yet. The Timberwolves are 2-1. They have lost. They're 2-1 right now to the Bucks, who are 3-1. 6.5 the point spread for Giannis Antetokounmpo and the rest of the Milwaukee Bucks. 230 the total. We know Minnesota can score. We know Milwaukee can put points at will at home, including a 140-point game last year in Milwaukee at their Fiserv. Fiserv, I think the name of the arena is the Fiserv Center. Somebody in Wisconsin can help me with that. I believe that's a cable company out there in the Midwest, Fiserv. So Fiserv Forum is what it's called. And Milwaukee 6.5-point favorite against the Timberwolves tonight. Moving on to the later games, the Sacramento Kings, who lost to the Warriors on Sunday, they are playing the Phoenix Suns. They're an 8-point underdog. Phoenix favored by 8, 224.5. The Phoenix Suns are 1-2, as are the Kings. So they're laying a big number here, 8 and 224.5 versus Sacramento. Sacramento's only win came at Portland on opening night when they beat them 124-121. In a game that the over was easily over by this individual here, Vasi Vadaparty's one of his favorite wagers on opening night Wednesday last week with Sacramento Portland over. So Phoenix 8, 224.5. You think Phoenix has it going right now? They whooped up on Portland on Monday night. They beat them by nearly 30 on Monday night. So you think that Phoenix has it going now after that win? You never know what momentum will be. Sacramento, if they get hot, they can shoot. Harrison Barnes is on fire lately. You just got to think that he's ready to go. Speaking of those Portland Trailblazers, they are a 2.5-point favorite against a very good Memphis Grizzlies team. 234 the total. Portland 2.5, 234.5 the total versus Memphis. Ja Morant on fire. They beat the Clippers, lost to the Lakers. Both games were very close in Los Angeles. This is the next game after that as well, too. Lillard and McCollum. You never know what you're going to get with Portland unless you see how those two guys go. Urquidy playing well at center for them. They've got some guys on that team that can shoot as well. Covington can shoot. He can play defense. They haven't done much of it yet as they've had to go high scoring. Lillard's had one bad game of the 3 games that he's been in. They are 1-2. The Memphis Grizzlies are 2-1. The Clippers, who Memphis beat over the weekend on Saturday night, they're an 8-point favorite against the Cleveland Cavaliers. 219 is the total against Cleveland. Cleveland's a mess right now. They did get a win against the Denver Nuggets on Monday night. They went into Denver and they beat them outright. Not only were they a 9.5-point underdog, they won the game outright, 99-87 over Denver. But the Clippers are a pretty good team right now. They are struggling without Kawhi Leonard. Paul George has played well. They've got guys on that team that have talent, and they can play on that team. Are they good enough to beat Cleveland Cavaliers by 8 points? That's going to be the question right now. The total 219. You may have to look at the over in that game as well, too. But Clippers have played okay at 1-2. The Cavaliers are 2-2. That game late night on the West Coast, 10:30 on the West Coast. Clippers 8-point favorite, 219. All right, that's going to do it for the NBA segment right now. We're going to take a break. We're here. Solo host today, Charlie O on assignment. Let's run through the NHL scores from Tuesday. Some interesting outcomes. The Calgary Flames have been playing well, 5-3 over the Devils. The Lightning go into Pittsburgh and beat them. One of our picks yesterday. The Lightning 5-1 over the Penguins. The Golden Knight get a victory at Colorado, 3-1. They've got a tough game tonight. We'll tell you about the lines tonight and today's game. A lot of people in the Bay Area were complaining that we couldn't get the Sharks on TV. This must be one of those exclusive ESPN Plus, or like in baseball with the YouTube deals that they have every week. The Predators beat the Sharks 3-1. They were on ESPN Plus exclusively, so no way that they were going to get this game. I guess in Nashville, you got it on regular TV, and that's where the ESPN Plus part came into it. The Minnesota Wild, who have been playing well, 3-2 win over the Vancouver Canucks late night in Vancouver. The Winnipeg Jets get a 4-3 win over the Anaheim Ducks. And then the Seattle Kraken get their second win of the year as expansion franchise, a 5-1 victory over the Canadiens. Let's look at the standings here real quick. Florida, Buffalo, Detroit atop the Atlantic, Carolina, Washington, the Rangers atop the Metropolitan. The St. Louis Blues, still the only undefeated team along with Edmonton. Both are 5-0. They don't even have an overtime loss. They lead the respective conferences. Edmonton 5-0, St. Louis 5-0 as well too. Minnesota 5-1 with their victory over Vancouver last night. Let's get to the games today. As we have games going on today, we'll get to the lines in a second. But some of the games today, as we get to the lines, are very interesting. Not a lot of games. Bruins, Panthers, Red Wings, Capitals, Maple Leafs, Blackhawks, Golden Knights, Stars, Flyers, Oilers. We know the standings. That's the big game that we're talking about in the NHL as well. So let's get to the lines real quick here. The Washington Capitals, I should say, they're a 2-10 favorite over Detroit. 6 the total. We said Detroit's playing a little bit better. They're 3-2 to start off the season. They've gotten off to a decent start in their 6 games. They do have an overtime loss in that. The Florida Panthers are 135. They're having a good year. They are atop the Atlantic Division. They are 5-0 in their 5 games as well too. They've given up, 6-0 in their 12 games. They have given up 12 goals in 6 games and scored 27, and they have won their first 6 to start the year. They're 135 over Boston, who's 3-1 in 4 games, and their record is 2-0, 1-1 on the road. They've only scored 14 goals, but have given up 11, so not a lot of scoring punch there for the Boston Bruins in their 4 games that they've had this year. All right, where are we at here? Detroit, Boston, Dallas, 155 versus Las Vegas. Las Vegas got a victory last night at Colorado, surprising a few people. Vegas not playing well to start the year this year. The Stanley Cup finalists 2 years ago in their expansion year has come in and really struggled a little bit. They're in, where are they? They are in, I don't see them anywhere. Oh, there they are. They're in second to last place in the Pacific Division, a 2-4 record. They've given up 20 goals and only scored 13, so a goal differential of -7. Dallas, a 155 favorite. Vegas going from Colorado to Texas. Dallas is also struggling a little bit. They are right in the middle of the pack in the Western Conference in the Central Division. They are 3-3 in their 6 games. They've given up 15 goals and only scored 12, so -3 there. Do you like Vegas as a 135 underdog? 5.5 the total. Doesn't sound like either team scores very much. The under looking good for you there? We don't know yet, but we'll see. The last game in the NHL, the Edmonton Oilers. They are red stinking hot. The Edmonton Oilers are a $1.85 favorite over a pretty good Philadelphia Flyers team who's 2-1-1. They've got 5 points in here as well, but the Edmonton Oilers have 10 points. Only the Florida Panthers have more points, and they play tonight as well too with 12 points. 5-0 for the Oilers, no overtime losses, 10 points, a true 10 points, and they take on the Flyers tonight. A $1.85 favorite, 6.5 the total. That's a lot. You got to check out where they are. Obviously, Edmonton in first place in the Pacific Division of the Western Conference. They've got their 10 points. Philadelphia, where's Philadelphia here? Philadelphia, I don't know if they have everybody listed on here. Philadelphia at 2-1-1. Everybody in the Metropolitan Division from Carolina all the way down to Philadelphia above 500. 5-0 Carolina, 4-0 Washington, 2 overtime losses for the Capitals. The Rangers are 4-2 with 1 overtime loss, 3-1-2 for Pittsburgh, 4-2 for Columbus, 3-2-1 for the Islanders, 3-2 for the Devils, and Philadelphia 2-1-1. That 1 overtime loss coming last week, but everybody over 500 in the Metropolitan Division of the Eastern Conference. So Philadelphia technically with a winning record in last place. A very interesting set of scenarios. The NHL lines we have. What NHL lines do you like? Get on with us on social media. Check us out. The Florida Panthers playing well. The Edmonton Oilers playing well. Everybody in the Metropolitan Division from Carolina to Philadelphia all playing well as well too. The Panthers are 6-0. Buffalo 4-1, surprisingly. And then Minnesota 5-1 after their victory last night at Vancouver. Going to be a very interesting hockey season as we're in week 3 right now. But here you have it. And here you go with the NHL starting right now. All right, when we come back in 30 seconds, we're going to hit the NFL, and then we'll go through all the lines one more time. Vasu Vada. With you as we welcome you back into studio. Let's get to the NFL here real quick. Week 8 will start Thursday. Very important start for the Arizona Cardinals. They are 7-0. They've got the best record in the NFL right now at 7-0. Green Bay, one of 4 teams in the NFC overall that have a 6-1 record. Nobody is at 6-1 in the AFC. So the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Packers are all 6-1. I believe that's it, if I'm thinking right. The Cowboys are 5-1. They had a bye week last week, so it's going to be very interesting to see how the Cowboys come back. They're back this week. By the way, the Ravens and Raiders have their bye weeks this week. So if you've got any of the players on the Ravens and Raiders this week, you're going to want to make sure that you get them. I missed out on Darren Waller not being available for the Raiders last week. He didn't get announced until after an hour and a half before game time. It was after our changes were allowed in fantasy football. So make sure you get all those injury reports as well as possible. But let's get back to Thursday night football, the NFL game. The Green Bay Packers 6-1. They lost their first game of the year. They got blown out by the New Orleans Saints in Jacksonville. Everybody thought it was all related to the contract and Aaron Rodgers being unhappy. Well, all they've done is run 6 straight off in a row, and they've taken a big chunk out of the NFC North. The Bears are 3-4. The Vikings are 3-3. They come off their bye. And, of course, we know about the poor Detroit Lions, though they played well the last two out of the 3 weeks. They got beat up by Cincinnati, but they played well against Minnesota in a 2-point loss, and they played well against the Rams with Jared Goff facing his former team, and, of course, Matthew Stafford facing his former team as well, too. But Thursday Night Football, the Arizona Cardinals are a 6.5-point favorite. The total is 50.5 in the game. Now, you might think that 50.5 for both those offenses, the way Kyler Murray's played this year, it'll be very interesting to see if they can get to that total. We know Aaron Rodgers pretty much runs that football field. Anything that he does well, and we know that that's the way that he plays. And 14 years in the league hasn't slowed him down a little bit. But here's the key. The Green Bay Packers, they're going to be missing players. I don't know who the coaches are, but I think I read there were 2 coaches that were out as well, too. But as far as the players go for Green Bay, Devontae Adams, Mr. All-Everything, Aaron Rodgers' favorite receiver. He's got Randall Cobb. He's got Allen Lazard. Oh, wait, he does not have Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard also on the COVID protocol. With a Thursday game, there's no way and no chance for them to get 2 negative tests that would have been required to play before they go to the desert in Arizona. They probably have already taken off to the desert right now. It's 12:45 on the West Coast, so maybe they'll take off a little later, get there at night, run through their work-throughs, get some sleep. They don't have to play till 8 o'clock tomorrow, the game on the NFL Network and on Fox. But Arizona 7-0. This could be a big test for them. If Green Bay wins, all of a sudden, Green Bay is 7-1, Arizona 7-1, and guess what? The Green Bay Packers, after that horrible opening day loss, they're going to have the best record in the NFL. They're going to be 7-1. They're going to run the roost of the NFC, the number 1 seed. Unbelievable how things have changed so fast for Green Bay. They went from that horrible opening day loss to 6 straight. Granted, they haven't played very good teams in there. They did play Cincinnati, and they were able to get a victory in overtime against Cincinnati. But a win over Arizona, and the way Arizona's playing right now, their defense is a lot better than I thought they were. I'm looking through the depth charts right now. You can see me, but I can't see you. The Arizona Cardinals depth chart, one of the big question marks right now is going to be Isaiah Simmons, their all-world linebacker. He's questionable. Jordan Hicks, also questionable. Rashad Lawrence, the nose tackle, questionable. J.J. Watt, questionable. And he had a big game against the Browns 2 weeks ago. And then they had their big game against Houston last week, although we said the Houston Texans we know are not very good. But they still covered the 19.5, and you got to be impressed with Arizona doing that. They held Houston to 5 points. They were down 5-0 and ran 31 straight. DeAndre Hopkins, questionable for tomorrow. Very interesting to see, but they've got everybody else healthy. Max Garcia, the center for Arizona, questionable. For the Green Bay Packers, let's get to their depth chart here in a second. As we said, Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, both out. That's COVID protocol. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is on the injured reserve list, so he's not available. Left tackle David Bakhtiari has been out for a few weeks, so they've got Elgton Jenkins at left tackle, John Runyon, Lucas Patrick, Royce Newman, Billy Turner. Not exactly household names on the offensive line, but they're 6-1, so who's complaining? Dean Lowry, one of the defensive ends, questionable. Kenny Clark, a nose tackle, questionable. Preston Smith, who's had an off year, he's questionable tomorrow as well, too. And they've got other guys that are on injured reserve, including Zadarius Smith, Randy Ramsey, Jair Alexander. They're one of their cornerbacks. But Rasul Douglas has played well. Kevin King is questionable at the other cornerback. If they have to go with somebody else, they'll have to go with Chandler Sullivan. But Darnell Savage has played well, and Adrian Amos, the veteran safety, has also played well. Of course, their special teams has been really good with Mason Crosby, although he's had a rough year this year as well, too. But the Arizona Cardinals special teams has been really good as well, too. They're 7-0. Their phases are all good. Matt Prater is the place kicker for them, and he will get their points. Rondell Moore, kick returner, also their third wide receiver. They use him a lot as well, too. So an interesting game on Thursday night. The Arizona Cardinals at 7-0 take on the Green Bay Packers 6-1. What do you think? Get a hold of us on our social media. Get a hold of us on our social media, Facebook and Instagram. Set us up anywhere you can. 6 o'clock Eastern, we'll have the latest news. We'll have all our selections for each day. Charlie O, intern Nick Robinson, and myself as we wind through another week of NFL action, college football action, the World Series in full swing. All right, let's do a recap here of what we've done for today. Again, the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Silicon Valley's longest serving British pub and restaurant, celebrating 40 years of the best food and drink British pub and restaurant, best food and drink. BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262. Let's run through the baseball real quick. The Braves defeat the Astros 6-2 in Game 1 of the World Series. Jorge Soler, his first home run in the World Series play, first ever leadoff home run in a Game 1 by any player of any series, any World Series in MLB history. Very impressive. Atlanta, 1-0 series lead. Game 2, Wednesday night on Fox Sports, 8 o'clock Eastern for first pitch. How about Charlie Morton pitching on a broken tibia, a break in his leg? He pitched to 3 batters after he broke his leg. He got through that second inning. 1 batter into the third inning, Jose Urquidy, he struck out. So he retired 4 straight batters on a broken leg. Realized he couldn't go. He's going to be gone the rest of the series. They'll have to replace him on the roster, but they'll have to find another starting pitcher to go, or they may go with an opener. This is 2021. They may go with an opener. So Charlie Morton started, gave it all he could, but he's out with a broken bone in his leg, broken tibia. Finished the at-bat with Altuve. That's unbelievable to me. The Braves bullpen pitched well yesterday. That Houston Astros lineup is solid. Bregman, Altuve, Correa, Gurriel, who led the American League in hitting, Yordan Alvarez, all that power, Michael Brantley, professional hitter. They don't get a lot at catcher with Martin Maldonado, but everything he does defensively and handling the pitching staff, he's just a catching savant, if there's such a thing. They're down 1-0. They're going to go with Jose Urquidy. As we look at Framber Valdez, gave up 5 runs in 2 innings. Brantley had the 3 hits for Houston, who lost for the first time in 4 games. They only had 8 hits yesterday, and they were only able to get across 2 runs. Houston, a 116 slight favorite. The total is 9. The over-under is 9 between the combination of both teams. Jose Urquidy, the hog-throwing right-hander, 95-plus mile-an-hour fastball, excellent slider, excellent changeup. Max Fried, the left-hander, had a tough start against the Dodgers in Game 5, goes tonight. He's had an excellent year. He can also swing the bat, but he doesn't have to swing the bat tonight with the DH. And then if Houston can win the game and force a Game 5, then they will take the day off tomorrow, travel to Atlanta, and then have 3 games for sure starting Friday night, 8 o'clock Eastern on Fox on Friday and Saturday. And then I believe 7:30. You know what? Let me check that. Let me be sure that that's the case. I believe they start early on Sundays. Nope, they are 8 o'clock on Sunday after the football. Fox has a doubleheader on football, so they don't want to run into baseball and have that start late. So they're just going to start at 8 o'clock. So 3 games at 8 o'clock, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Truist Park in Atlanta. It'll be dark. It'll be cold. So we'll see how the Astros offense fits into that. Boy, if the Braves come in today and hit up Urquidy and they get a 2-0 series lead and they go back to Atlanta with a 2-0 series lead, are you kidding me? That is unbelievable. The Braves, of the 4 teams that were left in the ALCS and NLCS, the LCS tournaments, they were 4th on the list to win the World Series. You probably could have got them at 25 or 30 to 1 odds, but here they are, 1-0 up on the Astros, another win, and they're halfway to a World Series championship. And all those people that had the Braves, all those Braves fans down in the Southeast, actually, they travel pretty well. There's a lot of Braves fans. I see them in California as well. And you can thank TBS and Ted Turner for that. For when we were kids, we were watching them every day after school or after work at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock before our West Coast teams came on. But can you imagine if they go up 2-0 in this series? I'm thinking about Max Fried tonight, left-hander, but boy, the Astros really hit the left-handers, and they hit them hard. And you think after losing last night and getting beat by a pitcher who had a broken leg, the bullpen was outstanding for the Braves last night. 6 2/3 innings, only giving up 2 runs. They gave up 7 hits. Soler had 2 hits. Ozzie Albies, Eddie Rosario, they swung the bat well. They both had 2 hits. And Adam Duvall, the National League leader in RBIs, they got him for a song from the Miami Marlins, a song. Some lower-level minor league players. He ends up leading the National League in RBIs with 107. He hits a 2-run home run as well, too. So Adam Duvall back in an Atlanta uniform, contributing big time for them. So the Atlanta Braves with a 1-0 series lead. Game 2 tonight on Fox at 8:15 Eastern. 8:09 actually is the first pitch with Urquidy and Fried going for the Braves. Let's recap the NBA. Warriors are 4-0. They beat Oklahoma City, did not cover the game last night. They get a 106-98. They were down 11 at the half, and I think they were up by more than 10 at one point, so they had a chance to cover or not. Lakers are the Thunder's next opponent. They beat the Spurs 125-121. LeBron James out yesterday with an injury. There's no line on that game yet. We'll get to the lines one more time here before we get out of here. But LeBron James did not play. Anthony Davis had a big game, 35 points, 17 rebounds. He had 4 blocks and 4 assists. The Lakers will go to Oklahoma City tonight and play the Thunder, where the Warriors just left as well. And then in the other games, the Knicks are playing well. They're 2-1. They have actually, are they 2-1? I got to look at this here. Get all up to date. The Knicks are 3-1 right now. The Sixers are 2-2, 112-99. Kemba Walker had 19. It was a blowout. Come the second quarter, the Knicks up by 20 at the half. They cruised to an easy 13-point win. Sixers did not shoot very well. They did not play very well. They don't have Ben Simmons on the court still. It's Tyrese Maxey and Seth Curry as your guards, Joel Embiid at center, and then Tobias Harris, Danny Green. Danny Green, a small forward playing for the Sixers on the front line and their bench. They've got Andre Drummond on the bench. He had a good game. So did Korkmaz. Korkmaz can shoot a little bit, but 12 of 41 from three-point land, and that's 29.3%, and that's not good enough in today's NBA. So the Sixers needing to get back in the swing of things. I don't know if Ben Simmons will make the difference or not. I don't know if he ever wants to play in Philadelphia. I have to get some Philly people on here and check it out. But right now, the Knicks are the team, 3-1, 112-99 over the Philadelphia 76ers. Utah beat Denver 122-110. They were all set to go. Denver was there for an upset, 7.5-point underdog, 218 the total. The game goes over at 232. But Denver, who lost to Cleveland 2 nights ago, they were going back-to-back. Nikola Jokic did not play in the second half, but he had 24 first-half points. Can you imagine 24 first-half points for Nikola Jokic? But he did not play in the second half, and it hurt them. The Jazz do cover the 7.5. Makes me happy. They do go over the total. I'm sure makes some of you happy as well. One other game that we didn't talk about, the Mavericks did not cover 10.5, or depending on where you got your line, 116-106. The Dallas Mavericks over the Houston Rockets. The Rockets had a 60-57 lead at the half. Dallas outscored them by 6 and 7 in the third and fourth quarters. So 59-46 in the second half. Dallas outscored them. They did not cover the 10.5. If you had them at 10.5, Houston does get the cover there as well, too. So that's what's going on in the NBA. Let's go through the lines real quick. Again, Charlotte, 5.5, 220 at Orlando. Brooklyn, 3.5, 217 versus Miami. Toronto, pick 'em, 215 versus Indiana. Atlanta, 5.5, 219.5 at New Orleans. Boston hosts Washington, -4 and 224. A big total there, I think. Washington's defense is pretty good. Milwaukee, -6.5, 230 against Minnesota. Phoenix, Sacramento. Phoenix, 8 and 224.5. Portland, 2.5 against a very good Memphis team, 234.5. The total there. And then the Clippers are 8 and 219, and they've got the Cavaliers. Cavaliers coming off that win on Monday night over the Denver Nuggets in Denver. So which Denver team is going to show up? I know Denver trying to get some respect in the Western Conference right now, as well as we look at the standings in the league. The standings in the league will go like this. Chicago, 4-0. New York, 3-1. Charlotte, 3-1. Milwaukee, 3-1. Miami, Washington, Atlanta, all 2-1. Minnesota, 2-2. Those will be your top 8 teams in the Eastern Conference. And then it's 2-2 for Cleveland, 2-2 for Boston, 2-2 for the Sixers, 1-3 for Orlando, Toronto, and Indiana, and then 0-3 for Detroit. So football and baseball not going very well for the Motor City. Golden State, 4-0. Utah, 3-0. Dallas, Minnesota, Memphis, all 2-1. Denver, 2-2. The Clippers, 2-2. And the Clippers are 1-2. The Lakers are 2-2. And then you got Sacramento, Portland, and Phoenix, all 1-2. New Orleans, 1-3, along with Houston and San Antonio. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder, the only team in the West to not win, although that will come soon because they're too good of a team as we get to it. NHL, not a lot to talk about in the NHL. 5 games there. There you go. Washington, Detroit, 210-6. The total for Washington. Florida, 135, 5.5 versus Boston. Dallas, 155, 5.5 the total versus Las Vegas. Edmonton 185, 6.5 the total versus Philadelphia. Philadelphia 2-1. Every team in that Metropolitan Conference, every team in that Metropolitan Division above 500. Philadelphia in last place there. Edmonton 5-0. They've got 10 points. The Florida Panthers is a story right now. 6-0, 12 points as they start the NHL season off. We're about 2.5 weeks in. And then we got Thursday Night Football tomorrow. Thursday Night Football with the Packers and the Cardinals. Arizona 7-0. Green Bay 6-1. The twist is if Green Bay wins, they're both 7-1, and Green Bay has the best record in the NFL because nobody's 6-1 in the AFC. So it'll be the Rams, it'll be Tampa. Green Bay's at 6-1 right now, and the Cowboys are 5-1 coming off their bye week. Speaking of bias, if you got fantasy football players like Mark Andrews or Tyson Williams or Lamar Jackson, you may want to think about replacing them for the week because they've got a bye week this week, them and the Raiders. So if you got Darren Waller or David Carr or anybody else on that Raiders team, you're going to have to look to replace them before Sunday morning, before the games start right now. But if the Green Bay Packers win tonight and they're a 6.5-point underdog, they won't have Devontae Adams. They won't have Allen Lazard. They've got injuries all over the place. If they end up not only covering that 6.5, but beating Arizona, which is entirely possible because Arizona hasn't had much competition right now. The only big game they've had was against the Rams in week 4 when they drubbed the Rams, and I thought the Rams were the best team. A lot of people thought the Rams were the best team. So now you got to give Arizona credit for where they are. You can only play what's in front of you, and they're 7-0 right now. And if they lose, they will be the number 2 seed because Green Bay will have the number 1 seed because of the head-to-head tiebreaker. So what do you want to win? Who do you like going on? Aaron Rodgers, a big underdog at 6.5. That's a big deal. I don't know how many people would take Aaron Rodgers who wouldn't take Aaron Rodgers at plus 6.5, but we don't have to worry about it tonight. We'd get it all tomorrow. Make the money and run. We'll return Thursday at 12 Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific with Vasuvada Party, myself, and Charlie O as well. I want to thank everybody on Facebook. I want to shout out a couple people here. Frank is always on there. Taylor on there. Christine, all those people on Facebook. We appreciate it. Don't forget, you can catch us on Instagram Live. You can catch us on YouTube Live as well, too. Download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Nice to see everybody on the special Wednesday. Game 2 of the World Series tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, with Houston a slight favorite. I don't know if you want to go out and use your money on that because it's a tough game to call. But Jose Urquidy, a good pitcher. Max Fried, a really good pitcher for Atlanta as well, too. So we'll see how it goes. 8 o'clock tonight on Fox, first pitch at 8:09. We will see you tomorrow on the Make the Money and Run podcast for this Wednesday. We will see you on Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Vasuvada